Stability off, DSC inactive, launch control. Oh, that's one way to start a car review. Oh, that is awesome. So this is a 2020 BMW M4 Cabriolet with the competition package. Now it actually has been fitted with pretty much every single option this car can be fitted with. Starting price is $89,000 Canadian. This is spec'd out and will leave the showroom floor at $119,000 Canadian. So $26,000 worth of options on this car, plus all your destination, whatever fees. So that's the basics. I want to get that out of the way before we start this review, just so you guys know that you can get a base M4 Coupe actually for $79,000 Canadian, and the cab starts at $89,000 Canadian. So is it worth it? That is what we're here today to find out. There's a lot to go over on this car. The first thing that we can quite easily start out with is that engine. Now, it is a 3-liter bi-turbo inline-6 from BMW. From the factory, it puts down 425 horsepower and 406 pound-feet of torque. But now with the competition package, you actually get a bump in horsepower, but not in torque. So it is bumped up to 444 horsepower and still 406 pound-feet of torque. As you can hear, that M Performance exhaust out the back is another option. You get a bunch of carbon fiber on the exterior. You get the carbon fiber front inserts in the front bumper. You get the splitter up there as well. You get a carbon fiber rear diffuser. You get the wing mirrors here in carbon fiber, as well as a bunch of carbon fiber trim here on the interior. When you put the top down and you have the exhaust in Sport or Sport Plus, the amount of noise that comes out of this car is beyond belief. What I've come to realize over the past week of driving this car around in day-to-day situations, as well as kind of performance driving like this, is that it really just eggs you on and encourages you to drive like a typical, stereotypical BMW owner. Just funny to say, but dipping into the corners here. So the steering in Sport Plus gets a little bit heavier than it does in Comfort. The competition package actually adds a tighter steering rack than the normal M4, which is probably, in my opinion, the biggest change with the competition package. It's not all the carbon fiber, it's a little bit to do with the power, but more importantly, I mean, the M4 is already insanely powerful from the factory, but a tighter steering rack will completely change the driving experience, and BMW has done it right in this car. Now, with Sport Plus steering and then going down to Sport and Comfort, it's basically just a change in steering weight. So the ratio is the same, it's just the weight of the steering gets a little bit heavier to give you that little bit more of like driver involved experience, I guess. I'm not, it's electric power steering. You don't get much road feel in any of the steering settings, I'm gonna be honest with you. But in every other driving situation, it's really good. It's a great, comfortable car. It's got a heated steering wheel as well. It's got heated seats. When the top is down, you've got little neck heaters back here, which will blow nice warm air on your neck, which is awesome. So the suspension is adjustable as well with this ultimate package, every option fitted. It has the M adaptive suspension, which is also tuned differently with the competition package. So you do still have your three settings: comfort, sport, and then sport plus, but the dampers have been tuned as such to reflect a kind of more performance driving scenario and situation with the car. So even in comfort mode in this car with the competition package is a little stiffer than comfort mode in a standard M4, and that is very important to note. And because of that, I've been keeping it in comfort mode basically everywhere I go and drive this car. It's very customizable. You know, the car can be as docile as you want it to, as friendly as you want it to, but at the same time, it can be an insanely manic sports car. So we're gonna go hit some corners right here. You got the basics down. We got a 7-speed dual clutch. You can option this car with a manual. You can get a 6-speed manual, which is awesome. I absolutely love that. So thank you, BMW, for saving the manuals. Hashtag save the manuals. Also, you guys will be able to see this on our POV video, or behind the wheel video. See, there's sideways right there. Very sideways on entry. It's extremely cold out today, you guys, by the way. And this M4 press car is actually fitted with snow tires. And the interesting thing is, obviously with snow tires, you don't technically always want as big of a contact patch. You want to cut through the ice and the snow. So instead of having 255s on the front and 275s in the rear, a staggered setup, as would the stock standard M4 have, a base car would have, this is actually a square setup as far as the tires are concerned. So instead of a 275 out back, it's cold and it's fitted with a 255 out back as well as up front. So this M4 is way more tail happy than a standard M4 would be. So just to keep that in perspective, it is also below 3 degrees Celsius out. So it's pretty much freezing temperatures out. Very slick. It's wet on the ground. So that is why you do get actually quite a bit of oversteer on entry in this car. Regardless, I mean, even in the dry, when it was slightly warmer out earlier in the week, you still get a little bit of on entry oversteer, which is, you know, it's not the greatest characteristic. Usually that's a good characteristic for a front wheel drive car, because then you can rotate the car kind of trail braking into the corner, get the rear end really nice and light, and just kind of keep it nice and in balance. So as far as the M4's powertrain is concerned, it is effectively the same powertrain as is in the M3, as well as the interior. The interior is basically a carbon copy of that in the M3. So this is kind of just like a little bit more hopped up version of the M3, a little bit bigger. The Cabriolet version of the M4 right here that we are driving right now weighs 4,300 pounds. 4,300 pounds. Wow, there's zero traction. So, I mean, it is a heavy car, and that's what I'm talking about. Like, with the entry, like when you're entering a corner, that's what I'm talking about with the oversteer. It's just the front tires will grip up. There's a shit ton of weight up front with it being a front engine vehicle. And then it just kind of, you know, the tail wags a little bit and it just kind of gets a little bit twitchy back there, and it gets a little bit unsettled right near the limit. It's not like, it doesn't really step out progressively as far as oversteer is concerned. The understeer is kind of unpredictable in certain scenarios. You know, it'll understeer for a moment, and then if you let off throttle just a bit, it'll pop right into oversteer. And you can really start to feel the weight of the car. Now, if you go with the coupe version of the M4, all of this power folding retractable hardtop is gone, obviously, so you lose a few hundred pounds, literally a few hundred pounds. So that is, you know, that's the difference of being a executive luxury sedan and a normal sports coupe. Regardless, it is enough of a M driving experience that, you know, your average luxury coupe owner will have a lot of fun in this car. You know, that's kind of what it's all about. This can, in fact, be your only car. That is, unless you want to go on a road trip, have the top down and have luggage in the back, because that's not happening. You can't do that. As soon as you put the retractable hardtop down, the trunk becomes useless. It is absolutely useless. You can fit maybe a camera bag or two back there with the top down. It's just really not, it's not practical. So if you're going on a two-person road trip and you want the top down, all your luggage is gonna have to be in the back seat, and that's kind of a little bit ridiculous. All this being said, you guys, the M4 is an insanely fast vehicle. Revs to 7,500 RPM. Just has a very torquey power band. So 406 pound-feet of torque gets delivered. I mean, the turbo starts spooling up at like 2,000 RPM. It is ridiculous, the amount of torque. But the power band seems a little bit confused with these engines, and this is what I found in a lot of modern M cars. Now, I just got out of an E30 that had been swapped with an S54 from an E46 M3. And that is, to this day, I think my favorite BMW I've ever driven, or definitely top 3. So in this car, the power band's a little bit different. Obviously, BMW has done away with the naturally aspirated era. They're completely done with naturally aspirated engines. So we have turbos, which can be a good thing, but also can be a bad thing. So what I mean by a confused power band. Now, torque comes on extremely strong. Peak torque is right around 4,000 RPM, but power also, which is wonderful, especially with the competition package, power carries all the way to 7,500 RPM. So what you have is a power band when you're doing your performance driving in which you don't really know where you're supposed to be. Like when you're exiting a corner, I don't know, do you want to just kind of short shift a little bit and have that immense torque from 4,000 RPM? Maybe you're looking to slide the car a little bit. You want that beefy torque with really good throttle response. You're going to get that at 4,000 RPM. Or do I want to be at 6,000 when I'm exiting a corner, so then I can just bang away gears with the last 1,500 RPMs of the power band, in which you get that 444 horsepower versus using the torque lower down. So, very long-winded way of saying it's a great power band with power everywhere in the power band. You can be in 6th gear, you can be in 2nd gear, it doesn't matter. You're going to be accelerating very quickly regardless. And this is an evolved M car. This is a modern M car for your average sports car driving enthusiast. My God, is it fast? It's really fast though. Your average person does not need to go any quicker than this. They just don't. Now, we did review the M340i, the brand new 2020 M340i recently. Now that has a little bit less horsepower, a little less quick than this. It's close though. But that has been equipped with the brand new M interior. So done away in that car is the manual parking brake. It's got an electronic e-brake. Gone away in that car is the analog gauge cluster, which I love in this car. So simplistic. I mean, it's essentially the same gauge cluster as it was in the E36 and E46 M3, and I love that. But like I said, judging how the M340i was built with that new infotainment system, everything was kind of a little bit more updated on the interior when compared to this car. So I would expect, at least in the next year or two, with the new M3 and the new M4, that you would have that new gauge cluster. So I would also take that into consideration, whether you want to kind of wait out and hold out for the new tech, adaptive cruise control, etc., which this car does not have, unfortunately, which is kind of crazy for $120,000. That's a whole other thing. Yeah, it's a lot of weight. Is the M4 a sports car? I would not consider this a sports car. I would definitely consider this more of a sport luxury coupe than a flat-out sports car. If you're looking for the one car as an addition to your existing garage, to be a sports car, I wouldn't go with the M4. That's just a blunt statement that I can say right now from my personal perspective. It is not hardcore enough. It is not buckled down enough to be that for me. With the manual, and if it was a coupe, a little less weight, maybe then. But I have not. This is the only M4 I've ever driven. So that is my verdict. It is a sports luxury coupe for the person who is probably never going to take it to the track and is going to commute with it, usually keep it in auto mode, comfort, efficient, maybe turn up the exhaust to, scare the shit out of their friends with the top down and go on a couple road trips, But then other than that, it's just kind of back and forth from work. That's who I imagine is buying this car. Now, if you're doing track days, you could get an M4 cab. It just wouldn't be the best option, and that's my honest opinion. So the M4 is a great car. I have fallen in love with this car over the past week. Thank you so much, BMW Canada, for hitting us up and tossing us the keys to this car. I can't thank you enough. Great comparison between this and the M340i. Personally, if I'm looking at a daily that I'm gonna use on the back roads on the weekends, I would still go with the M340i. That's the 2020 BMW M4 Cab, you guys. I did point out quite a few of this car's flaws, and that is my job. But that's not to take away all of the amazing things that are with this car and that you can spec this car with. I think with the competition package, it's not good value necessarily. I mean, $26,000 in options isn't good value, but you're getting so much car. And the inline six sounds phenomenal, specifically at high RPMs. It sounds deep and growly, a little bit raspy, the lower RPMs, and on the overrun, when you let off the throttle, there's a bunch of crackles, and I think that masks a little bit of that inherent, not so pleasant kind of raspiness, especially on cold start. On cold start, the car is insanely loud, ridiculously loud. But this engine really just sounds a little bit better when you're between 5,000 and 7,500 RPM. That's the sweet spot. All right, so I'll show you guys top-down motoring. Now, this is why you get the M4 Cab. I've got to reduce speed. I think it's up to 10 kilometers an hour or 15 kilometers an hour that you can do this. We are rolling. Finally, oh man, it's been raining all week, so we haven't actually had the top down very much. A little bit. I did have one time, I had 3 other people in the car, and we had the top down and it started raining because it was raining all week, so we had to put the top up. Here we go. And then when you put the car in sport, you get everything in sport. It is so loud, so loud. Oh God, is that great though. Having the, I'm not a big convertible guy. With the top down now, the car looks not nearly as good as the coupe does, or even with this, with the hardtop up, but it is one of the greatest things in motoring is to be able to have the top down. And I've come to realize that over years of doing this show. Yeah, you get a lot more engine note. Yeah, okay, now I get why the exhaust is so loud. God, that's fun. When you drive a car for a week, you can really, it's not hard to point out the flaws in the vehicle and to find things, little nitpicky things that might be a little bit wrong with the vehicle. And that's kind of what I've done here. I love the heads-up display. I love the color of this car, this metallic blue. And it's just an overall great driving package. This can absolutely be your only car, which cannot be said about a lot of other sports cars out there. So thank you guys so much for watching. Subscribe if you have not already. Hit me up on Instagram at Roads Untraveled. See a little bit of what we're shooting on a day-to-day basis and kind of some behind-the-scenes footage and whatnot. I'm not sure we'll be getting any more brand new press vehicles from the fleets from manufacturers before the end of the year, as it is getting kind of cold and snowy out here in Vancouver. But in the new year, we'll be in LA. We'll be doing a lot of modified cars and a lot more brand new vehicles as well. So check out the channel, browse, see what you like. We'll see you guys next time.
Hey, Roads Untraveled, this is my 95 Honda Accord, the Yeti, daily driven and a Gambler 500 specialty. It's got a 2-inch lift, some bigger tires, cut the fenders, and we're ready to go off the jump.
Gonna have to use the force on this one.